Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Red Mist podcast with me, Seshadri, and welcome to another episode of Liverpool on Tuesdays. Yes, this is episode number 3, and as you've probably guessed from the title, we've got a lot to talk about. Now, before I get into the European Super League and all that that entails, I will obviously add that this episode will be a little bit longer just because of the volume or the intensity of the topic that we're about to talk about, the importance of the topic that we're about to talk about. So this episode will be a little bit longer. And as per usual, I will of course talk about Liverpool's 1-1 draw with Leeds. I will talk about Jose Mourinho being sacked from Tottenham. I can't even believe this, but that would honestly be the biggest story on any other episode. Jose Mourinho being sacked from Tottenham or Liverpool drawing 1-1 with Leeds. I will talk about those, but obviously that's going to take a backseat to ESL. So that will probably come towards the end of the episode. But we're going to focus on the ESL. We're going to focus on the European Super League. And we have to focus on it, unfortunately, because Liverpool are one of the founding members of the ESL. So for those of you who don't know, who've been living under a rock, or who've just returned from outer space, I don't know. Here's the thing, right? The announcement was made on Friday that 12 of Europe's biggest teams, not necessarily the best, but the biggest teams, right? They're going to break away from the existing sort of UEFA and the existing Champions League, Europa League structure, and they're going to go ahead and form the European Super League, which is a tournament, a league where the best teams or the biggest teams from Europe, the ones that generate the most revenue, are going to be playing each other week in, week out in midweek fixtures instead of the Champions League or the Europa League or whatever other European competition there is. So these 12 clubs, I've already mentioned Liverpool. There are 5 more from England, obviously the big 6, which includes Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester United, Chelsea, Arsenal and Tottenham. From Spain, you've got Barcelona, Madrid, actually both the Madrid sides, Real and Atletico. And from Italy, you've got AC Milan, Inter Milan and Juventus. So these are the 12 teams that make up the ESL so far. They're still looking for 3 more founding members. A few clubs have been approached. The French club, obviously Paris Saint-Germain, have refused to be part of it. Bayern Munich and Dortmund have refused to be part of it, as have, I think, RB Leipzig as well. So 3 German clubs. The German clubs and the French clubs have basically refused to be part of it. Porto has refused to be part of it. So a few clubs have been approached to take the remaining 3 founder spots of the ESL, but so far the backlash, I guess, is just stopping them from accepting it. And maybe they have other ideas as well. Maybe there's other reasons as well why they're not accepting it. Whatever the case may be, but so far there are only 12 founding members, and the way the European Super League works is that there's going to be 20 teams divided into 2 groups of 10 each, and they're going to play each other in a league format midweek through the season, home and away, and then the top 4 from each group go on to the quarterfinals, and then there's semi-finals and finals, which will be held at a neutral venue in May. That's the basic format of the European Super League. The 15 founding members are guaranteed to be in the league year in, year out, regardless of how they perform domestically. The other 5 spots will be based upon invitation, based upon how you do in your domestic league as such. The announcement was made on Sunday night, which the timing of it is crucial because UEFA was going to announce their 24-team Champions League on Monday. And this obviously is, the revamp of the Champions League, so to speak. I said 24-team, I'm sorry, I meant 36-team. So instead of the current 32-team group stage format, they're going to have 36 teams, and each team is going to play 10 match days during the so-called round-robin stage against randomly selected opponents based upon seeding. And, then you've got playoffs to determine the round of 16. Then there's quarterfinals, semi-finals, and finals as per usual. The timing of it was bad. The announcement caught everybody by surprise by the looks of it. I mean, managers, players, fans, everyone was caught by surprise when it came to the ESL announcement, because I think everyone expected the UEFA announcement. Like, it's been peddled around for some time, and everyone sort of expected the UEFA announcement to be made. But the timing of the ESL announcement was it was suspicious, I can't lie. Obviously, there's been a lot of backlash from fans, a lot of backlash from clubs, and a lot more. You know, I mean, the reaction from fans, I think, has been the most poignant, because this has united fans across the globe, because everyone sees it as a bad idea. And I'll get into why I see it as bad idea. Of course, spoiler alert, I see it as bad idea. But I'll get into why we see it as a bad idea, or I see it as a bad idea anyway, in a little bit. But generally speaking, there's been a lot of hatred towards this idea of the European Super League from fans. There's been, there's obviously opposition from clubs which are outside of the big six, or which are in France, which are in Germany, for example. There's a lot of opposition from them as well. There's more. I mean, some people have chosen to obviously take, I guess, bring humor into the situation. Obviously, you've got Leeds United's Twitter admins having a field day after the 1-1 draw with Liverpool. You've got Spartak Moscow's admin having a field day. Leipzig's admin had a field day. So, I mean, there's been reactions all over the place. Pundits have reacted: Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, Dion Dublin, Danny Murphy. I mean, there's a lot of people. Ian Wright. I mean, everyone's sort of reacted to this. Managers have obviously reacted to it. Jurgen Klopp reacted to it yesterday. Thomas Tuchel was a little more diplomatic, I guess. So there's been a lot of reactions, and there's been some reactions from players as well. And we'll get into that a little bit more. But, players like Mesut Ozil, Ander Herrera, Bruno Fernandes, Daniel Podence, all these guys have reacted as to what this means, and, what this means for them. And it's a little bit more complicated as a situation for them as such. And we'll get into that. We'll get into why that is the case. But coming now to my thoughts. Look, change is always going to be part of football, right? The Premier League was formed, and there was a lot of opposition to that. The Champions League had a renewed format, and I'm sure there was opposition to that. There's always going to be change, and there's always going to be competitions that need to be better, that need to give a better quality product. And, you're never satisfied with what you have. You have to aim for something that's bigger. That's what makes football what it is. Whether it's as clubs, you as a relegation threatened club, you're looking to solidify your place in the topmost leagues of your country. Then a mid-table club is probably looking to get into Europe. Or, there's always, there's always going to be change. People are always trying to get better. And that's the same with football as well. That's the same with competitions. That's the same with everything. The Europa League has to try and get better. The Champions League has to try and get better. It's got to give you a better product, and so on and so forth. So I'm not surprised that, there's talk of change. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But what I do have a problem with when it comes to the European Super League is that it is the antithesis to the Champions League in a lot of ways, because the Champions League is the pinnacle of European football, and ESL wants to replace the Champions League, which is fine. You can have another competition, that's perfectly fine. But the Champions League, the reason the Champions League is the pinnacle of European football is because anyone who does well in the domestic league is rewarded with a Champions League place. It's a reward for all the hard work that you've put in. Like, Leicester winning the league and playing in the Champions League the next year, they deserved it because they did so well in their domestic season, and they were rewarded for it. The same thing with Atalanta. They've consistently built up over the last few years from being a team that was on the brink of relegation to now being a team in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. So they've been rewarded for it. At every stage, football has been about rewards, about rewarding the best. If you don't win your round of 16 tie, you're not going to go to the group stage. And if you don't, finish first or second in your group, you're not going to go to the round of 16, right? So that's just how football works. You have to reward the winners. You have to reward people who work hard, people who do well, people who perform. And the idea of the European Super League that to me irks me the most is the fact that, these people seem to consider being at the top of the European game as a birthright rather than something that they have to earn. Because, and again, this is obviously reflected in the fact that Leeds United wore warm-up t-shirts that said Champions League, you've got to earn it. And football is for the fans. You can't deny that. You can't deny that whatever you get in football, you need to earn it. Leeds United imagine if, I'm talking about Leeds United in last night's game, and imagine if this was Leeds United in the Premier League back in 2000, 2003 and all of those years. And, if suddenly one day they formed their own breakaway league saying, oh, you know what, we have English football heritage on our side, so, we don't deserve to get relegated. It just made no sense. You have to reward people who do things the right way. And that's just how football has always worked. And the ESL goes against that very nature of it. By being this closed league that assures 15 of its teams a place no matter how they perform, that's not good. That's horrible. Because, let's be real, this isn't about the best performing teams. Because when was the last time Arsenal were in the Champions League? When was the last time Spurs did anything of note in the Champions League other than, reach that final the one year that we won? They've never won a European trophy. Arsenal's never won a European trophy. So you've got all these teams that, that are just there purely because of financial muscle. Because if you look at it, Porto has won one European trophy. They've won a Champions League under Jose Mourinho. Ajax has won a fair few Champions League trophies. Aston Villa has won one. Nottingham Forest has won a couple. And yet they were not invited. This is not based upon the best teams being there, or historically good teams being there. This is just based upon the fact that these guys have the money. That's it. These guys have the money. Atletico Madrid has money. Real Madrid has money. Barcelona has money. And that's just the way it is. And this is, for me, the fact that it's a closed league, the fact that 15 of your teams, no matter how badly you're performing, you're still assured of a place in Europe. I think the idea that a European place is a birthright and not something that you have to earn is disgusting. And I'm saying this as a Liverpool fan, we call ourselves European royalty. We've won 6 European titles. And we're one of the best teams in Europe in terms of history, but at no point am I going to say I deserve a place in next season's Champions League over West Ham just because, we're Liverpool. If we deserve a place over West Ham, it's because we're going to finish in the Champions League places with West Ham or without West Ham or over West Ham, whatever the case may be. If we finish in the top 4 and West Ham don't, then yes, we deserve a Champions League place. But if West Ham finish in the top 4, then fair play to them. They deserve a Champions League place. So the idea that, that a European place is considered a birthright, that you're not rewarding teams that actually do well, like Leicester, for example. Okay, West Ham's having one good season, fair enough. They may not have this again next year. They may not have this again for the next decade. I don't know. But Leicester, the last few years, they've been building up towards this. This season, the fact that Leicester's in the Champions League places is not a surprise to anyone who's been following English football. They've been building up towards this. They're basically the Atalanta of England. Atalanta have done the same thing in Italy. They've been building up towards it. And Leicester has been doing the same thing in England. And now suddenly you want to tell me that no matter how well they perform, no matter how how good they are domestically, they're not going to get a chance to play in Europe. That's what you're telling me. And it just reeks. And look, I'm not against the American model of sports. I follow the NBA, I follow the NHL and the NFL. And there's a lot of stuff about American sport that I do love. But the fact of the matter is, one of the things that I don't like about American sport is the fact that it can get anti-competitive because it's a closed league. The teams at the bottom have nothing to play for other than, draft picks, for example. And at least there you have that to play for. In the ESL, you literally have nothing to play for. Think about this. If, let's say you're a fan of Manchester United, right? And you're watching them play in the ESL. Fair enough. They've been playing the season. They've been playing different opponents. They're playing your Madrids, your Barcelonas, your Liverpools, your Cities. They're playing all these people. Let's say you get down to March, right? And United are, in their group of 10, let's say they are 9th. Let's say they're 9th and they're playing Barcelona, who are 10th, let's say. In March, you have nothing to play for because you're not going to finish within the top 4 of your group to qualify for the quarterfinals. And you're not going to get relegated. So what are you playing for? And for me, that game, Man United versus Barcelona, becomes a dead rubber. You have nothing to play for. And I know people will argue saying, you have dead rubbers everywhere. You have dead rubbers in the Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, whatever league you want to take, you have dead rubbers, and that's true. That's fine. But your premise for building the ESL was that you'll provide me better quality of football. I mean, how is the fact that how is a dead rubber between Burnley and Newcastle any worse than a dead rubber between Manchester United and Barcelona? Yes, they may be better footballers, but a dead rubber at the end of the day is a dead rubber. Am I going to, as someone in the Indian market, am I going to watch a game between Man United and Barcelona at 12:30 in the night? I'm not going to stay up for that. If I know that my team is, there's no point. Whether I win or lose, there's no point. The only difference is whether I finish last or second last. So that's one thing. The other thing is football's always been about merit. Football's always been about performance. On the pitch, 90 minutes, do you give your best? And one of the things that makes the Premier League, or any league rather, so attractive is the fact that it's a David versus Goliath sort of sport. You're always going to have big teams. You're always going to have smaller teams. You're always going to have teams bigger in terms of financial resource. You're always going to have teams that, maybe can't compete financially with you. But on the pitch, there's always hope. There's always hope and belief that if I put out 11 good players, that on my day, if I play the best football, I can beat your 11 players. That sort of belief is always going to be there. And for me personally, one of the charms of the Premier League, and this happened even a couple of weeks ago, one of the charms of the Premier League is, waking up. Obviously, every week you're not having big games. Manchester United versus Man City is not there every week. Man United versus Chelsea is not there every week. Or Liverpool versus City, whatever. Whatever two big teams you want to take, they don't play each other every week. You're playing Leeds, you're playing Burnley, you're playing, West Brom, West Ham, all these teams, right? And the charm of the Premier League is waking up. Let's say your team's played a fixture, scrape through with a 1-0 win, and then you wake up and let's say Chelsea are playing West Brom, and this happened a couple of weeks ago. The surprise, the element of sudden joy that you get when you hear that West Brom's just put 5 goals past Chelsea and beaten them 5-2 it's unique to the nature of football. It's very unique. Like, you don't expect that stuff. It's not as exciting if you go ahead and say, oh man, Chelsea's lost to Barcelona 5-2. Like, fair enough, 5-2 is a bad score, but it's Barcelona. So my point is, ESL just takes away from that charm. It goes against the spirit of the game. And, I mentioned earlier, the Champions League is the pinnacle of European football, right? It rewards teams that have done well in their domestic competition. It gives you a place in amongst the elite of European football if you've done well domestically. It says, okay, you've done well, you've earned your place here, so come to the table, right? It does that. And it rewards people who don't perform. If Arsenal finish 9th and are still assured of a place in Europe, that's not fair, right? That's not fair to teams like Leicester, who've spent years building their team and getting them to a point where Champions League qualification is not just a gift or a sudden occurrence of good luck, but rather something that they've earned and something that they deserve. It's not fair to them. Look, I am not a fan of a smaller team. I'm not a fan of a QPR or Burnley. I keep bringing up Burnley for some reason today. I'm not a fan of Aston Villa or West Ham. But the fact of the matter is, if I was, the allure that one day I could see my team, my local team, go up there and play in the Champions League just purely because we did well in the Premier League. I mean, that's something I can understand. That's something that I can understand. It means a lot to local communities. Football means a lot to local communities. And this is nothing but an example of globalization gone wrong. An example of billionaire owners who don't understand anything about football coming in, taking over these clubs and just saying, yeah, we're going to do things our way and there's nothing you can do about it. And this is nothing but a power grab, a money grab. And honestly, it sickens me as a Liverpool fan that Liverpool are at the forefront of it. A club that is, Gary Neville mentioned it as well on Sky. This is a club that is a workers' club, a club that is built upon the values of this city, of Liverpool, and a club that, is built upon hard work and the effort that people like Bill Shankly have put in. A club that is for the people, by the people in a way. And the same goes for Manchester United. Manchester United is a club that was built upon by workers, and you're telling me you don't want competition. You've worked your way up, whether you're Liverpool or Manchester United, you've worked your way up at times from the second division, and you've become champions of Europe. And now you're telling me you just don't want that. You want the easy path because you deserve it, because you have some God-given right to European football, because somehow every other club that tends to do well or that tends to build themselves up is not deserving of European football. Like they don't, like Leicester doesn't deserve to be there, West Ham doesn't deserve to be there. Like, look, it's just unfair. Like, it just, even as a Liverpool fan, even, you know, you'd think that the prospect of European football would year after year, no matter where we finish, would appeal to me. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't, because I want to feel like I belong there, like I've earned my place there. I want to feel like I support a club that does things the right way. And for me, the way Liverpool have acted in this is just not right. Like, it's just not fair. It's just not fair, because the simple fact of the matter is, what if it was the other way around? What if Leicester was doing this to Liverpool? What if Leicester was the bigger team? You know, what if Leicester was the one which had won 19 titles? What if Leicester was the one which had 6 European trophies, and we were trying to do what Leicester are doing right now? And what if Liverpool was trying to build itself up to a point, and then suddenly only to have Leicester take it all away? Like, it's just unfair. And it's really, you know, this is the worst form of a power grab that I've seen in a long time. And I say a long time, although big picture was also this season, and that was again spearheaded by United and Liverpool. Sorry. So for me, this doesn't come as a surprise. I'm just surprised as to how much they've gone through with it, because as far as I remember, and I don't know how true these are, but there are clubs that have pulled out of the European Club Association, the ECA. I think Juventus have done that, Chelsea have done that, I think. Liverpool have done that as well, I think. So that would officially, you know, get them out of European competition. That would officially get them out of UEFA competitions, which, you know, I think what's scary to me is the fact that they've gone through so far with it. And, you know, it doesn't seem like they want to pull back. And that's really scary, because that means the whole landscape of football will be changing. And, you know, and the harsh realities of it is that these 6 clubs, I'm just going to talk about the Premier League now, these 6 clubs bring in most of the revenue, right? And the Premier League, the harsh reality of it is the Premier League needs them more than they need the Premier League. And yes, fans can make statements, fans can do this and that, and, you know, there may be initial few years of resistance, but once this becomes a way of life, people are going to tune in to watch Liverpool. People are going to tune in to watch the European Super League. And given a choice between, you know, watching Liverpool play Newcastle or watching Liverpool play Milan, people are going to tune into Liverpool versus Milan. So, you know, eventually this is just going to be the norm, and that's scary to me, because this legitimizes this concept of rich get richer, and you know, they get things that they don't necessarily earn, like, and that's really scary to me, because the football that I grew up watching, the football that, you know, a lot of us grew up watching, it epitomizes the idea that you could be down and out, or, you know, you could really be a small team, but on your day you could end up winning the league, or on your season you could end up winning the Champions League. Like, you're never going to see a Cinderella story like Porto winning the Champions League, for example, or like Leicester winning the Premier League. Like, you're never going to see stuff like that. West Ham being in a Champions League place. I mean, these are things that make football interesting, that make football what it is, these stories, because football is not just money, it's a human game. It's a game played by humans, for humans. And there's obviously a lot of feel and emotion that goes into it. And you're dehumanizing football. And that's really what this is all about. You're looking at it in terms of dollar bills and you know, pound notes. But the fact is, football is more than that. Football is about people. Whether that's a player, whether that's a fan. And football's about dreams. Football's about, you know, people Football's about ambition, about vision, about intelligence, about dreams, emotion. I mean, and you're trying to take all of that away from the sport, and that's just, in my opinion, that's just wrong. That's all I guess I'm willing to say on the matter. It is already 25 minutes of recording, so I'll move on to other stuff. A couple of things to talk about. Last night's game, Leeds United won, Liverpool won at Ellen Road. I mean, with all that's going on, honestly, I didn't pay too much attention to the game, I can't lie. But the first half was really good as a performance. I thought we did quite well. Trent did really, really well. And the second half was, I mean, it was again back to what we've seen from Liverpool this season. Very inconsistent. Let Leeds dominate us pretty much. I mean, at least if not dominate, at least they played really well. So, we let Leeds be on the front foot, and that's not. It's just a reflection of where the season has been for Liverpool. Very inconsistent. Just very inconsistent, really. I mean, it was good to see Sadio Mane get his goal. That's there, but overall, I just thought our performance was quite pedestrian, to be honest. And I don't think I'd be. I mean, our performance could have been a lot better, and Thiago played really well. Got to give him credit. Trent played really well, but there were others on the pitch whom I thought, especially guys like Gini Wijnaldum. I just thought, what the hell are you doing, man? Like, honestly, at this point, just Wijnaldum should just leave the club. I like him. I thank him for what he's done, but genuinely, at this point, he's just becoming a liability, which is disappointing to say about someone who's meant so much in the last few years under Jurgen Klopp. But yeah, those are my thoughts about the Liverpool Leeds game. Like I mentioned, it's just not. I don't have a lot to speak about it because obviously you're preoccupied with all this European Super League stuff. And Jose Mourinho got sacked, so there's that. Any other week, I just figured that would be the biggest story. Jose Mourinho getting sacked, obviously from Tottenham. There were rumours he did it because of the European Super League and the fact that Daniel Levy just didn't consult the managers of the players, which is another thing, right? I mean, going back to sort of the subject of the European Super League, managers and players have been thrown under the bus in all of this, and I get into this in another episode. I can't do it now because it's almost time, but I mean, it's a very disconcerting situation for them as well. So anyway, there were rumours he did it because Tottenham was in the ESL and Mourinho had been consulted about it. And I can understand. And the timing of it is suspicious. Like, if you were going to sack a manager, you're not going to do it a week before a cup final, right? So, for me, the timing of it is suspicious. I think it lends more credence to the fact that he probably quit because of ESL. Because no matter how badly the results are going, you would want sort of the manager to stay for the cup final, and then no matter what happens, he could win the cup final and still get sacked, but at least he was there for the cup final. But the timing of it does kind of irk me. I think there is some credence to the fact that he was disappointed with what happened with the ESL and stuff. And I'm not sure other managers will walk. I'm not sure people like Ole or Jurgen Klopp will walk. I think they're more likely to wait and see what goes on before they take a decision. But yeah, it does. I wouldn't be surprised if they do walk out. I'm not sure about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but I think definitely Jurgen Klopp, if this persists, and I can see him leaving Liverpool, definitely. The same thing probably for Mikel Arteta as well at Arsenal. There were rumours, of course, that even he was planning to walk out. Don't know how true they are. Don't quote me on that. But I mean, we'll see how that goes. I mean, it's been a rough week. It's been a tumultuous week for football, and I think at the end of the day, we've just got to see what happens. We've just got to see if players come out. Obviously, PFA has given a very diplomatic statement, but we've got to see what happens in the future as well. If more players come out against it, and we'll see how clubs perceive. How different clubs perceive this. Obviously, there's a meeting today about today between the other 14 teams in the Premier League. and we'll see how these things pan out. There may be more episodes of the Red Mist podcast coming out on this subject and over this week, obviously, and we'll see how that goes. But wherever you are, take care. Stay safe, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.